Akadosh, good evening. We are going to start another Chazaran of Dalad Amubet on the top two words where it says of Yuda Omer Haovel Lifnei Teva. So we are on 4b where it says of Yuda says Haovel Lifnei Teva. And the Gemara says as follows, yeah? The Gemara says of Yuda Omer, Rabbi Yuda comes and he says Haovel Lifnei Teva, if you're going to come and be Shliach Tzibur on Shemini Atzeret, B'Yom Tov Acharon Shel Chag. The last one is going to mention Mashiach Roch Geshem. The first one is not going to mention it. And on Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, which is going to be on Pesach, the first one is going to mention Mashiach Roch Geshem, and the last one, which is Musaf, is not going to mention Mashiach Roch Geshem. Urminu, we have a contradiction. What exactly is the contradiction? The Mishnah later on. The Mishnah later on, Daf Hamud Aleph comes and it says, Al Matai Shoalin et Geshamim, until when are we going to ask for rain? Rabbi Yuda. Now remember, it's the same Rabbi Yuda. Rabbi Yuda was in our Mishnah that says, on when? Shemini Atzeret Acharon. And all of a sudden here it's telling you, Matai Shoalin et Geshamim, Rabbi Yuda Omer, Shi'avor Pesach. What is Shi'avor Pesach? It's going to be until after Chol HaMoed even. Second opinion, which is Rabbi Meiri comes and he says, Ad Shi'avor Nisan, until Nisan finishes. So you have the entire month of Nisan finishing. So the contradiction is, how could you tell me now that Rabbi Yuda is going to be Ad Shi'avor Pesach, which means including Chol HaMoed, and you just said in the Mishnah, Bet Amud Aleph, that it's only going to be until the Shemini Atzeret, and that's it. So answer, sorry, not Shemini Atzeret, on the Pesach, it's the first day of Pesach. So answers the Gemara, a few answers. Answer number one, Amar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta, La Kashya, so question. Kal Nishol, Kal Laskir. What does it mean, Kal Nishol, Kal Laskir? If you're talking about mentioning Mashiach Roch Geshem, and one of them is asking, so therefore, Mishal Shail Va'azim, once you already start asking, you can continue going until the end of Pesach. But when you mention Mashiach Roch Geshem, it's Yom Tov Rishon Pasik. You stop on the first day of Yom Tov Pesach. Asks Ula, Amar Ula, Ma Pitom, what are you talking about? Says Ula, doesn't make sense. Had Rav Chasta Kashya. That which Rav Chasta just said is the question. Why? It's difficult. Kachometz l'shinayim, v'ke'ashan la'enayim. He says it's like chometz, it's like vinegar to your teeth, and it's like smoke to your eyes. Why? Uma b'makom she'eno sho'el maskir. Even if in a place where you're not going to ask for rain, when is that? On Shemini Atzeret, you don't ask for rain, but you still mention Mashiach Roch Geshem. So if you're going to ask for rain, so Kavachomer, you're going to mention Mashiach Roch Geshem. But rather Ula answered Tretanea Aliba de Rabbi Yuda. There are two Tanaim, Aliba de Rabbi Yuda. Second answer, Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef Amar, Mayad She'avor Pesach. What does it mean that until Pesach passes by? It doesn't mean Chol HaMoed Pesach, right? Chol HaMoed of Pesach. It means Ad She'avor the Shliach Tzibur. Meaning when the Shliach Tzibur is over Lifnei Teva, it's talking about Pesach, but it's the first day of Pesach, Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. So says the Gemara, Elmaleh, what are you talking about? On the first day of Pesach, it says, Amatai Shoalin. You're Shoel on Pesach? Shoalin means V'ten Tamat al-Bircha. V'ten Tamat al-Bircha, you don't say on Yom Tov. You only say it during the week. So says the Gemara, right? Umi Elmaleh Abaye, She'ela b'Yom Tov mi'ika. Is there She'ela on Yom Tov? Elmaleh comes and he answers, there is. Why? Shoel Meturgeman. The Meturgeman is asking. What does it mean the Meturgeman is asking? Meaning that when the Meturgeman is going to come, he's a translator and he gives over the Shiur. So therefore, when he's going to give over the Shiur, right, what happens is that, right, nowadays we have Zoom for giving over the Shiur. You understand? You have the rabbi giving over the Shiur and then it's given over again, right, and on another hand. You understand? But once upon a time, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, so he says, but what happened was the Meturgeman comes, he's giving over the Shiur. There he's going to say, not in the Amidah, in the Shiur. So he comes and he says, he says, it doesn't make sense. The Meturgeman is going to ask for something that you don't need. Meaning if the Tzibur does not need rain, why don't we need rain? It's already Pesach, we don't need rain. So if we don't need rain, why in the world would the Meturgeman come and start asking for something that we don't need? So answers the Gemara, you're right, we pushed off Rav Yosef, we rebutted Rav Yosef, and we go back to the original answer of Ula. What did Ula answer? Tre Tanai Aliba de Rabbi Yehuda, two Tanaim in accordance to the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. Third answer, Remember, the Chastan number 1, pushed off from what? Al-Ula. Rav Yosef number 2, pushed off from Abaye. We answer like Ula again. Number 3, Rabba. Rabba comes and he says, what does it mean at Pesach? We're talking about until it's going to pass the sacrifice of the Korban Pesach. Meaning, we do Shechita to Korban Pesach. When do you do Shechita to Korban Pesach? Chatzot. No, Chatzot of the day. Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach, the 14th, right, until Chatzot, which means that it's going to be done Shachrit of Erev Pesach. That means until then, because you could say Shachrit, right, until Chatzot Hayom. So therefore, from Mincha, which is after Chatzot Hayom, now you don't do it anymore. So you stop asking. So therefore, to do with the V'ten Talamat Livracha, you're going to stop at She'avor Zman Shechitat Pesach. But to do with the Maskirin, which is Mashiv Rochman Geshem, you're going to do that until when? Until the morning of Pesach. Says the Gemara, Ken Sofo. The beginning is just like the end. What does that mean? Matechilato, just like at the beginning. Right, maskir afal pishon shoel at the beginning on Shemini Atzeret. What do? You're maskir. You say Mashiach Rochman, but you don't ask. So two thing at the same thing is going to be at the end the exact same halacha. What do you mean at the end? At the end on Pesach, you're going to be maskir. You're going to say Mashiach Rochman, even though you're not going to ask for the because you already started the finish that before. So says the Gemara, Abaye comes and he says it doesn't make sense. Why? Again, Abaye is not going to push off Rabbah, and he says. I understand at the beginning, it's good in the beginning. Maskid, you're mentioning Haskara Nami Ritzu Shelahi. Because when you mention it, you're starting off, right? It's like the foreplay. You're starting off in order for what? In order to ask for the question. So you're not going to go for the bomb question. You're going to start and you're going to say this and that until finally, Papa, yeah, I want a big house. Yeah, and all of a sudden, Papa's going to give me a big house. Correct? Yeah, very good. He's Papa. Papa, hockey. Yeah? Papa Noel. Yeah, he comes and he says, so what? He's going to give you a big house. So you start mentioning, until finally you're going to ask for it. So he comes and he says, yeah, Elosofo, Mairitzu Shelaika. He says, what about Sofo? Sofo's at the end. If you already finished, you finished asking, why in the world are you going to mention Mashiach Rochman Geshem? You're trying to leratzot. Leratzot is like to try to encourage, to try to appease, to try to ask, I don't know how you say it well in English.
Preparation?
Yeah, preparation, but it's liratzuya is even more than preparation. It's like to get you to like butter you up in order that you know that you're all, so then I could ask for you what I really need. That's liratzuya, right? To have a goodwill, right? To have goodwill, right? But here, you already finished asking. Why in the world would you do that? We go back to the original answer. Kede'ula. What was Ula's answer? So this is what we did, right, until yesterday. Yesterday, we added another 3 lines. We're going to do those 3 lines right now. So the Gemara now says, this is what we did yesterday. There's a chazara for yesterday, but again, I want you guys to know it well. Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says,
you go back now.
Yeah.
The 3 lines.
Yes, I'm going back on the 3 lines. Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Asi in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, which means, even though it says Rabbi Asi is saying it in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, you just have to remember Shitat Rabbi Yochanan. So if I'm going to ask you right now, what is Shitat Rabbi Yochanan? You're going to tell me Shitat Rabbi Yochanan is halacha like Rabbi Yehuda of our Mishnah, which means in our Mishnah we came and we said Shemini Atzeret. That's Musaf for Shemini Atzeret. The same thing. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. No, that's the next Mishnah. Vad Matai. Forget about the Mishnah. We finished with that one. Right? We're now saying there's a contradiction in. Right? No, in our Mishnah, Bet Amud Aleph. Bet Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yehuda says Sukkot Shemini Atzeret. That's when we're going to do the Mashiach Rochman Geshem. So says Rav Asi in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. Amar le Rabbi Zera le Rabbi Asi. He says Rabbi Zera to Rabbi Asi. Umi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Achi. Does Rabbi Yochanan actually say that? But now we learned in a Mishnah. Now this Mishnah is the Yod Amud Aleph. So on 10a, the Mishnah on 10a says, Bishlosham Marcheshvan Shoalin et Geshamim. Rabbi Gamliel Omer b'Shiva bo. So there's a machloket. When do you start V'ten Tomat Livracha? Do you start it on the 3rd of Marcheshvan, on the 3rd of the month of Cheshvan, or on the 7th of Marcheshvan? V'amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. Okay, the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. Now, what does that mean? That means that it's going to be the 7th of Marcheshvan. So now we're going to think that if right now you're going to mention, right, you're going to start asking. So asking and mentioning is the same time. Now, right, we are going to push it off because we're going to say Elmaleh Gavra Gavra Karamit, which means, what are you asking exactly? One of them is Rabbi Yochanan, and one of them is, right, who's the other one? He comes as Rabbi Elazar, right? But we already explained yesterday that what happened is that Rabbi Elazar is actually the Talmid of Rabbi Yochanan. So therefore, if he's coming and he's telling you that the Lachaza Kam Gamliel, he probably heard that from his rabbi Rabbi Yochanan. That's why we're asking. You understand? But still, the Gemara answers, what are you talking about? At the end of the day, Rabbi Elazar doesn't always have to go with Rabbi Yochanan. You could have a student that he argues on his rabbi, and therefore, right, he holds, Rabbi Elazar holds like a Gamliel that it's the 7th of Marcheshvan, and Rabbi Yochanan holds that it's going to be on Shemini Atzeret. And the student, so therefore the Gemara asks, Elmaleh, says Rabbi Yasi to Rabbi Zera, Gavra Karamit, you're asking, right, from one person to another person. They're two different individuals, right? They're two different individuals, right? You got one Perez and another Perez. There's two Perez, two different people. Okay? So, says the Gemara. So that was the first answer. The first answer is, right, Gavra Karamit. Are you asking from one person to another person? Doesn't make sense. Second answer. Ibaitema, if you want, you could answer. Lakashia, it's not a question. Kan lishol, the kan laskid. What are you comparing both cases to? One of them is asking, and one is mentioning, which means to do with asking. The tental matal vracha, Rabbi Elazar holds like Rabbi Gamliel, which means on the which day of Cheshvan? Seventh day of Mar Cheshvan, and Rabbi Yochanan is talking about maskid. What is maskid? Shiur. When do you do Shiur? On Shemini Atzeret. There's no contradiction. They could both be even Rabbi Yochanan. They could both be in the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan. One is laskid, one is bishol. So says the Gemara, what are you talking about? The Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, "B'makom sheshoel maskid." Whenever you ask the tental matal livracha, right, you're going to mention it. You're going to say, right? You're going to say, so answers the Gemara, what are you talking about? Haul hafsaka itmar. That was for hafsaka. What is hafsaka? When you finish, not when you start. Meaning, when you finish, you're finishing for both. Kaddish for both. But when you start, you're starting differently. You're starting two different things. Okay? Ask Dr. Champa, oops, I meant the Gemara. V'hama Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, Hitchil le'askid, matchil lishol. Pasak milishol, posek milaskid. Here, like what Dr. Jean-Paul just said, 1 second. From Rabbi Yochanan, it's mashma that it's both the same. Meaning, when you start the what? When you start maskid, you're starting to ask. And when you stop to ask, you stop laskid. So therefore, you come from here and saying the exact same thing, not only at the end, lafsaka itmar, even at the beginning. So therefore, again, we have the same question in the beginning. From Rabbi Elazar, we just said that you're only going to ask when? On the 7th of Mar Cheshvan. So that's a question of Rabbi Yochanan. Because Rabbi Yochanan says that it's on Shemini Atzeret. So therefore, again, you're going to ask the same question. So therefore, the answer that you said, kan lishol ve'kan laskir, we just pushed it off. Why? Because it's not kan lishol kan laskir. Lefi shitat. Who is this? Rabbi Yochanan. According to Shitat Rabbi Yochanan, selam and shos. It's a bidiyuk oto davar. When you start asking, right? That's what he said. I'm sorry. When you start mentioning, you start asking. And when you stop asking, you stop mentioning. So therefore, when do you start mentioning? Shemini Atzeret. So you start asking. When do you stop? Yom Tov Rishon Shepesach. So you stop asking, you stop mentioning. It's not only at the end, also at the beginning. So therefore, in our Mishnah, we said, when do you start Shemini Atzeret? But then it said that you start on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan. What's going on? So the Gemara answers, Ela la kashia. It's not a question. Halan de halehu. This is for lan. Who's lan? We. Not we in French. Yeah, we, for us. Halehu is for them. For them. Who's them? Eretz Yisrael. What's the difference now between Babel and Eretz Yisrael? Which means, right, Bnei Babel, the people in Babylonia, they had grains, fruits, all the month of Tishri. And therefore, what happens is that if it's going to start raining, it's going to be a problem. So because of that, they don't start asking or mentioning. They don't start doing nothing whatsoever until the 7th of Marcheshvan. And that's Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi Elazar comes and he says, the Gamliel, the 7th. Yeah, makes sense. However, though, in Eretz Yisrael, they gather all their fruits before Sukkot. They gather everything in Tishri. So therefore, already on Shmini Atzeret, they already start doing everything. And that's Rabbi Yochanan. So therefore, in Shitat Rabbi Yochanan is going in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't matter if it's going to start raining now. So if it doesn't matter that it's going to start raining now, so what's going to happen? So you're going to start mentioning on Shmini Atzeret. But in Bavel, they still have their fruits outside. If it's going to come and start raining on the fruits, it's going to ruin them. And therefore, one second, yeah. And therefore, what happened? No, there's Bavel.
You need to know that he's in Israel.
100%. What happens is, that's when he says, Halehu, that according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's on Shmini Atzeret Ve'elach. Next, ask the Gemara, 1 second. What did you just answer me? You just answered me that in Babel, it's not good, the rain during Tishri, because they still have the fruits outside. Okay? But what about Israel? Israel, they already collected their fruits beforehand, so there's no problem. But what is there in Israel, which there is a problem if it starts raining? The pilgrims. What are the pilgrims? The Oleh Regalim. The Oleh Regalim. Says the Gemara, what's the difference between us? Ledidan is to us. That we have fruits. They eat land that we have to us. Payday. Payday means whether it's fruits or tivua, grains. Bedavra, which means, right, in the fields and everything. At the end of the day, right, ledidunami, them also eat lehu oleh regalim. They have oleh regalim, which means just like by us, right? Remember, by us, we are in Bavel. Remember this Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud. This is not Talmud Yerushalmi. This is exactly, we are the Bavli. This is Bavli. So in this Bavli, if right now in the Talmud Bavli, we are coming, we're saying, in Bavel, we are not going to mention it on Shemini Atzeret. Why not? Because we want to wait until Marcheshvan. Why? Because of the fruits and the grains. He says, one second, what about Eretz Yisrael? And Eretz Yisrael also, if you're going to start on Shemini Atzeret, everybody's going to be rained on, right? Rained on, and then everyone has to go home. Imagine right now you have to start, what?
They're on their way out.
No, but they're going home. Now, if it's going to start raining, you don't want it to rain right away. For 15 days, for 15 days afterwards, you want to give them time in order to get home. So the question is, what's going on over here? Yeah, what does that mean? Right?
Yeah.
He says, Ki ka'ama Rabbi Yochanan, bizman she'en bet hamikdash kayam. I answered up, oleh regalim. Why? There's no bet hamikdash. If there's no bet hamikdash, is there oleh regalim? There's no oleh regalim. There's no bet hamikdash. If there's no bet hamikdash, nobody's going up to do aliyah l'regel. If there's nobody going up to aliyah l'regel, so now it makes sense. One more time. In Bavel, there's fruits and grains. The fruits and grains, if I'm going to start on Shmini Atzeret saying, Mashiv Ruach B'nei Geshem, right? And then afterwards, again, remember, according to Shtat Rabbi Yochanan, it means that I'm also asking for rain. It's a problem. Why? Because then it's going to destroy all the fruits and grains, and then I have a problem. So therefore, I'm not going to do it, right? But in Israel, I already gathered them all in the day. So there's no problem. Oleh regalim. There's no vitamin. So when Rabbi Yochanan says that we're going to ask, right, already on the time of Shemini Atzeret, there's no oleh regalim. So says the Gemara, Hashta dartit lachi. One second. If you now just made a differentiation between the time when there's a Bet HaMikdash and there's no Bet HaMikdash, why don't we just say Be'emet? Both of them is the same thing. Meaning we're talking about Eretz Yisrael. We're not talking about Bavel. We're not talking about Babylonia. We're only talking about Eretz Yisrael. Why? But remember, Rabbi Yochanan was in Eretz Yisrael. V'la kashian, it's not a question. What's not a question? Kam bizman shebet HaMikdash kayam. Kam bizman shebet HaMikdash kayam. Just 1 second. Why are we making it in two different countries? Meaning we're making the machlokot. Rabbi Yochanan in the Mishnah in Bet Amud Aleph is talking about where? In Israel. And Rabbi Elazar in Shitat Rabbi Raman Gamliel on the Yod Amud Aleph is in Bavel. No, you're not talking about two different countries. Everything is in Eretz Yisrael. Everything's in Israel. And still there's not a problem. Why is there still not a problem? For a very, simple reason. You know what that simple reason is? He says, if there's a Bet HaMikdash, so therefore, if there is a Bet HaMikdash, you're going to do it when? Like which Mishnah? Yoda Mudalef on 7th of Mar Cheshvan. Why? You want to give time for the Oleh Regalim to go home, the pilgrims to go home, and then they're going to be fine. But when there's no Bet HaMikdash, we go like Rabbi Yochanan on the Mishnah on Bet HaMudalef, that is Shemini Atzeret. It all depends whether there's a Bet HaMikdash or there's no Bet HaMikdash. It's not that there's Lan, Lehu, Bavel, Eretz Yisrael. No Bavel, no Eretz Yisrael. There's only Eretz Yisrael. We're talking about Israel. We're talking about Rabbi Yochanan. And what are we talking about? Well, during the time of Bet HaMikdash or not the time of Bet HaMikdash. So remember that we had two different answers. The first answer was Halan veHalehu, okay? And then the second answer was, right, that no, nothing to do with Bavel and Eretz Yisrael, right? Because we were talking about that there was no Bet HaMikdash. We're talking about only in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, and Eretz Yisrael. But one of them was in the Bet HaMikdash, one of them didn't leave Bet HaMikdash. Fine. The Anan, the Itlan Treyome, what about in Bavel? Bavel, we have two Yamim Tovim of Shmini Atzeret, correct? We have Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. So therefore, Hechi Avdinam, which day do we do it? Shmini Atzeret or Simchat Torah? So Amar Rav says, Matchil b'musafin, you start on the first day of Shmini Atzeret, uposek b'mincha, and maybe and then you're going to stop by Mincha, Arvit v'shachrit, v'chozer b'musafin. Which means like this, something incredible. You know what he just said? Listen carefully. You have 2 days. No, Shmini Atzeret comes before Simchat Torah. One more time. You have 2 days. The first day is Shmini Atzeret. Second day is Simchat Torah. Remember that in Israel, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same day. There's only one day. Simchat Torah and Shmini Atzeret is the same day. So what do? According to what we just answered now in Rav, what does he say? Very simple. Shachrit, what do you say in Shachrit? Of Shmini Atzeret. Morida Tal, according to everybody. Does anybody argue? No. That was our Mishnah. Chazak u'baruch. Very good. When do you start? Musaf Av Shmini Atzeret. So now I said like this. So on Musaf, I'm going to start Mashiv Ruach U'Menegeshem. But now I have a problem. Maybe Be'emet Shmini Atzeret is only the next day. It's not today. Maybe Shmini Atzeret is the next day because we're doing 2 days. So what do? You said Mashiv Ruach U'Menegeshem in Musaf on the first day, but now you stop. Mincha, Arvit, and then Shachrit the next morning. What do you say? Morida Tal again. And then Musaf of the second day, again you do Mashiv Ruach U'Menegeshem. Let me read the words again, one more time. Amar Rav says, Matchil b'musafim. You're going to start on Musaf of the first day of Shemini Atzeret, even though it's a safek, whether it's going to be the Yom Shvi of Sukkot or not. Uposek b'mincha. And then you're going to stop by mincha of that day. And then what do? Arvit. You're going to stop by mincha. You stop. That means by mincha, Morida Tal. Right? Morida Tal. Arvit v'shachrit, also you're stopping. And then the chozer b'musafin. Then again, you do it on Musaf on the 9th day. Right? Why? Because again, Mashiv Ruach U'Menegeshem. Okay? Now, Elmaleh Shemuel comes and he says, I don't understand you. Fuku ve'imru le'abba. Go and tell Rav, achar shasito kodesh ta'aseu chol. So I don't understand you. After you came and you made it kodesh, you're going to make it chol? What's going on? How if you already made it kodesh, you already made it holy? What am I doing? I'm saying that the first day is Shemini Atzeret. But then I'm saying, no. Maybe the first day is not Shemini Atzeret. Maybe the first day is really Be'emet. Chol. When is Shemini Atzeret? Tomorrow. So therefore, the first day I came, and by Musaf, I came and I said, Mashiv Ruach U'Menegeshem. All of a sudden I said, you know what, 1 second. Maybe tomorrow is Shemini Atzeret, not today. So what do? Morida Tal, for Mincha, Arvit, and Shachrit. After you already came and you made it Kodesh, you made it holy. Now I'm going to make it Chol. I'm going to make it Monday. There's a problem here. There's something wrong. Right? So he comes and he says, Amar Shemuel, but rather Shemuel argues on Rav, and he says, Matchil b'musafim. You start on Musaf, Uv Mincha, and also a Mincha. So it means you did it Musaf and Mincha. One more time. You did it Musaf and Mincha. Then, Posek Arvi v'Shachrit. That means you're doing together. Right? Musaf and Mincha is together. Now by Arvit and Shachrit, you go back, and then you go back to Muridatal, and then Choser Matchil B'Musafin, then you go back. Now why? This svara is that you continue making it Kodesh because you also said it in Mincha. Right? You still said it in Mincha. So the fact that you still said it in Mincha, but then you stop by Arvit and Shachrit. So the Gemara is going to say, right, that is the Shita of who? Of Shemuel. So again, you have the Shita of Rav, and then you have the Shita of Shemuel. Rava comes and he says, no. Kevan sheitchil, once you start, shuven posek. You don't stop. Vechen amar Rav Sheshat, kevan sheitchil, shuven posek. And by the way, that's how we paskin, obviously, which means is that once you started, you will never stop. Because once you start, if you're going to stop, you're being mizalzel, you're disgracing it. So when you start, you finish. Kamarnu. Ve'af Rav hadarbe. Even Rav himself retracted. We're on Hey Amud Aleph, by the way, just for everyone to realize. 5A1. Ve'af Rav hadarbe. Even Rav retracted. Te'amar Rav Chanan el Amar Rav. Says Rav Chanan in the name of Rav. Moneh 21 yom. You're going to count for 21 days from Rosh Hashanah. Kederech shemoneh 10 yamim Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim. Just like you count 10 days from Rosh Hashanah until Kippur. Which means that you start the count of 21 from the first day of Rosh Hashanah, just like you counted the 10 from Rosh Hashanah to Kippur. Umatchil, and then you're going to start Givurot Geshamim. The Kevan Sheitchil, Shuven Posek. And once you start, you don't finish. Vehilchata, Kevan Sheitchil, Shuven Posek. So the Gemara says, the halacha is, once you start, you do not finish. We're just going to do a very quick chazara on that which we just mentioned at the end, right? That we were continuing off from yesterday. It says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, Hitchil lehaskir, if you started mentioning it, matchil lishol. So then you start asking. And if you start mentioning, you start asking. You say, Mashiv Rochman Geshem. So you say, Pasak milishol. If you stop asking, so posek milaskir. So you stop mentioning. So therefore, you see from here that it's all the same. Meaning, the times that you're going to ask and mention is the exact same thing, also at the beginning and also at the end. You wanted to answer me that the time was the same only at the end when you finish. It's not true. Even when you start, it's going to be the same. So says the Gemara, Ela la kashya. It's not a question. Ha lan ve'alehu. What does that mean? We just pushed off the answer of lishol and lehaskir, correct? We just pushed it off. But now it says the Gemara, halan ve'halelu, which means one is for us is for Bavel, ve'halelu is for Eretz Yisrael. Why? In Bavel, they have grains and fruits. Now, since they have the grains and the fruits, it's in the fields the entire month of Tishri. If they're going to come and start asking, because remember, according to them, the second you say, you're also saying, so if you're going to start asking and mentioning, what happens is that all of a sudden, right, what's going to happen is that if you come and you say that, it's going to be a big problem, because then it's going to ruin all the grains and all the fruit. It's going to ruin everything. Now in Eretz Yisrael, though, right, in Eretz Yisrael, which again, they're going to gather all the grains and the fruits together and everything. They're going to mention it from Shmini Atzeret and onwards. Why? Because there's nothing left in the fields. So therefore, halan ve'alu. In Bavel, you only do it on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan, and that's Rabbi Elazar in the name of Gamliel. And in Eretz Yisrael, that's our Rabbi Yochanan in our Mishnah. According to Shtat Rabbi Yehuda, you do it from Shmini Atzeret. Ask the Gemara, Mai Shena, what's the difference? Ledidan, that for us, the it land that we do have, the it is that there is land to us. Pere is fruits, or tevua, grain. Either, because many times they also call grain fruits. It's a fruit, right? It's considered part of the produce, right? But dabra is in the fields. So one second, what's the difference that we have the fruits and the grains in the fields? Ledidhu, for them, nami also, itzlehu, they have, itzlehu, yesh lahem, they have ole regalim, the ones that are ole is to go up. Regalim is the shalosh regalim, the 3 regalim, comes from the words reglaim, that you're going up with your feet. So therefore, the question is, what they also have ole regalim, and just like we don't want the fruits and the grains and everything to be ruined, so to the ole regalim, we don't want them to be rained on. So therefore, for them also in Eretz Yisrael, you shouldn't start from Shmini Atzeret. Because if you start from Shmini Atzeret, everybody's going to get soaked. They're trying to go home, and you're stopping them from going home, but they're going to be soaked on the way home. Answers the Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan. When does Rabbi Yochanan come and he say that in Eretz Yisrael you mention from Shmini Atzeret? He's mentioned when there's no Bet HaMikdash. If there's no Bet HaMikdash, there's no problem. Why? There's no Leregalim. If there's no Leregalim, from Shmini Atzeret already you could ask for rain in Israel. So in Bavel, it's the 7th of Mar Cheshvan. But in Israel, it's going to be when? Shmini Atzeret. Why? Because there's no Bet HaMikdash. So says the Gemara, Hashta, now, Teatit lahachi, that you're coming and you're saying this. That means you resolve this, that there is a difference between Bet HaMikdash Kayam and not Kayam. Ha veha ledidu. So then both cases of Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar, this and this, ha veha, this and this, ledidu is also for Eretz Yisrael. It's not for Bavel. Ledidu, it's for them. It's still another question. It all depends whether there's Bet HaMikdash or not Bet HaMikdash. Meaning, why are you coming and answering to me that we're talking about two different countries? Babylonia and Eretz Yisrael. The difference is Babylonia, you still have the fruits and you have the produce, and therefore they're going to get ruined. So you do it on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan. So if it's like Rabbi Elazar and Gamliel, and then you're talking about over there that it's Eretz Yisrael, there's no fruits anymore. So therefore it's going to be on Shmini Atzeret. There's no Bet HaMikdash. So if there's no Bet HaMikdash, say everything is talking about Eretz Yisrael. And now there's a difference between Bet HaMikdash and HaMikdash. If there's a Bet HaMikdash, you start like Rabbi Elazar and Gamliel, 7 of Mar Cheshvan. If there's no Bet HaMikdash, you start like Rabbi Yochanan and name Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Mishnah, Bet HaMikdash, that we do it like when? On Shmini Atzeret. Nekuda. That's it. Dot. So therefore we finish off by answering two different answers, how to answer up that there's not a stira between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. Again, you also had the question of Gavra Karamit, right? That means we also was a push off, but then you had another two answers. Now the Gemara is going to ask a new question. The Gemara asks, Va'anan. Anan is us. Okay? Lan, Anan, for us. The it lan, that we have, lan, to us, that there is to us. Terei. Terei is two. Two. Tlata. Right? That's also in Arabic, yeah?
Tlata is 3.
Exactly. So here's trei. Trei is not.
It's not in Arabic.
Yeah, no, that's only Arabic, but it's not 3. 3 is tlata, right? Just like in Arabic. Yeah, trei. Trei is 2. Yeah, so you have the anan, the itlan, trei yomed, that we have 2 days. When do you do it? At the end of the day, Shemini Atzeret, we have 2 days. Yeah. So Amar Rav says matchil bemusafin. So now we're going to have 3 different shitot. Rav is the first shita. Rav says, Amar Rav, matchil bemusafin. You're going to start on Musaf Av, Shemini Atzeret, the first day. Uposek bemincha arvit v'shachrit. You stop, right? You don't say Mashiv Rocham and Geshem. You're going to say Morid Tal. For when? Mincha, arvit, and shachrit. And then the choser musafin. Again, the second day of Shemini Atzeret, which is going to be Simchat Torah. Then again, in Musaf, you're going to start Mashiv Rocham and Geshem. Why? It makes sense. If the first day is Shemini Atzeret, you started by Musaf. If it wasn't Shemini Atzeret, that's why you stopped by Mincha, Arvit, and Shachrit. And the second day, of which is Simchat Torah, now you're going to start by Musaf. Makes sense. Amalehu Shemuel. Shemuel says, what are you talking about? Makes sense. Puku. Puku means go out. Right? Puk, go out. Right? Like, right? Puku. Ve'imru lei le'abba. Imru, Amar, to say. The Imru lei, say to him, to Abba. Now, Shemuel is saying, go tell to Abba, he's referring to Rav. Some people say that the name of Rav was actually Abba, right? But they called him Rav because that was like his nickname, right? It's just like they called him Yudan Asir Rabbi, right? Because of his nickname. And other people say that he used to call him, right? That Abba was not his name, but he was older than Shemuel. So he was calling him like Abba, like my father, meaning that, he's the elder one. So he's calling him like, go tell my father. Because he's older than him. Yeah, my senior. Why? Because he's older than him. So therefore, that's one explanation. So he comes and he says, Puk, go out, Puku, go out, Vimrule le'abba, and tell Abba, Achar shasito kodesh, taseu chol. What? After you made it holy, now you're going to make it whole? You're going to make it whole? You're going to make it mundane? Meaning, you just made it holy by why? By coming on Musaf on the first day of Shemini Atzeret and saying, Mashiv Rocham Geshem, you made it holy. By Mincha, by changing back, you just made it holy. Because now you're saying, no, maybe the first day is not Kodesh. Maybe the first day is not Shemini Atzeret, and it's only the second day. So means you made it chol. What's going on? It doesn't make sense.
No.
Right? Yeah. But rather Shmuel answers, Matchil b'musafin, you start a musaf. Uv mincha, and you continue mincha. Because now that you continued on mincha, right? As long as you continued on mincha, so therefore it's still holy, meaning that you still continue the kedusha. Now you stop on arvit and shachrit because that's not the same day anymore. Okay, that's the next day. Meaning arvit and shachrit is the next day. Mincha is the same day. So then for on mincha of the same day, you still continued mentioning it. But on arvit and shachrit the next day, you didn't mention it. The choser matchil musafin, and then you're going to start with musaf. Right? That's the second shita of Shemuel. Okay? One more time. The third answer. Rava comes and he says, Kevan sheitchil, once you start, shuven posek. You don't continue. You don't go back. Meaning you don't make a hefsek. Once you started, Kaddish, you continue going. You'll never stop. You don't stop. That's what Rav Sheshat says. Kevan sheitchil, shuven posek. You don't stop. Now says the Gemara, the af and also Rav, Hadar be. Hadar is to retract. He retracted, right? Also Rav retracted. Meaning, if you remember until now, who do we have? We have Rav, we had Shemuel, and then we had Rava. Now, if you also have Rav also retracted, right? So also now, Rav also retracted. Tamar Rav Chanan Elam Rav says Rav Chanan in the name of Rav, Moneh 21 yom, right? You're going to count 21 days. Just like you're going to count 10 days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, which means just like from Rosh Hashanah to Kippur you count 10 days, so too from Rosh Hashanah to Shemini Atzeret you're going to count the 21 days. And then you're going to start Kivurot Keshamim. So once you start, right, the Kevan, and since Sheitchil you started, Hatchala, Shuven Posek, you don't go back and you don't return. The Hilchata, and that's the halacha also, Kevan Sheitchil, once you start, Shuven Posek, you do not go back.